How do you guys settle on the idea of creating a course around YouTube?
One October, like it's a Monday in October back in 2020, and we were sat in Ali's flat being like, okay, what shall we do with this course idea? Ali had talked to Tiago Forte and David Perel, who running Building a Second Brain and Rite of Passage, two live cohort-based courses that were doing very well. And they'd started, I think, within the past 12 months. They hadn't been going particularly long. And so Ali knew that there was a space there for a YouTube-based course that was live. The community aspect really coming through because that's been a massive aspect of PTYA over the last 2 years. And so we were there thinking like, how can we do this? And so that there and then we put together basically a 4-week course, a live course with post-it notes on the tables and things like that. In an afternoon, I wrote it up that evening and the next day, and then by the end of that week, so the 22nd, 23rd of October, we had like a course ready to launch essentially, with the expectation that we would get like 15 to 20 people signing up as a kind of beta version of the course and seeing how it goes. We launched it, I think, the following Monday or the following Wednesday, after we've been going back and forth on the name. And within like 3 or 4 days, we'd had over 100 people sign up. And then within a couple of weeks, we had over 350 people sign up. And at that point, we were like, interesting. This could be something. And we did that first cohort in November, December of that year. And yeah, it generated around, it wasn't too much because the figures that we used, or the prices that we used, sorry, were quite low because we were kind of testing the waters for this project. And so I think we made around the $300,000 mark for that one, which obviously is not insignificant at all, and was kind of mind blowing for us at the time. But we realized it was something that we could grow into something else, and something far bigger. And what that allowed us to do is that it kind of unlocked the potential to hire more people and expand as a business, because suddenly we had not only a pool of capital, but also we had something which needed attention. It needed someone to run it and work on it and make sure that we could do the next cohort and the cohort after that. These 4 weeks, these 6 weeks, which they became, are very intense. They're very operation heavy. And so in February of 2021, i.e. the next spring or winter, we hired 2 more people to be writers, essentially replacing me in the writing role because I needed to work on PTYA. And we did another cohort of PTYA, which generated a similar amount of money with half as many students because we increased the prices. And then from there, we've kind of reinvested some of that money back into the business and hired more people. We did another cohort in the spring, summer of 2021, so last year. And I think that was the first cohort to make over $1 million. So again, that allowed us to hire more people, and we gradually brought on more people as a result of PTYA being so successful. And since then, we've now done 6 cohorts, and I've gradually become less and less involved over those 6 cohorts because it is very intensive, and requires 3 full-time people and about 8 or 9 part-time people during the course to run it effectively. But yeah, so that's kind of the brief, I say brief, quite a long story of how PTYA came to be and how it actually impacted the business and the trajectory of Ali's progress over the past, Ali's business's progress over the past like 2 years. On YouTube, it hasn't necessarily had much of an impact in terms of the growth, but certainly the business, it allowed us to really expand and hire more people.
That's crazy. So you guys put together this course in a week, pretty much, like the foundation of the course, right? I'm guessing it seems like Ali picked the YouTube niche. Like, why did he pick YouTube and what opportunity did he see? I mean, it's obviously done very well for you guys, and I think it's like a great playbook for any creator that has like a significant audience. How did you guys pick the YouTube niche, and what opportunity did you guys see? And like, how can creators pick a niche that's right for their audience, right? Because like Ali's content is personal development, productivity. It's not like YouTube specific, right? Like I don't think he's supposed to. I mean, he does appeal to like kind of like creators in a way as well, because he talks about the camera gear and all that stuff. But like, how do you guys settle on the idea of creating a course around YouTube?
I think YouTube is always going to have that appeal to people with wanting to start a YouTube channel or develop their own YouTube channel. And Ali had the credibility with, at that point, he had about 1.2 million subscribers. And so he had the credibility that he'd been there, he'd done it, he'd worked as a doctor alongside growing this audience, and therefore he had that he had the validation that he could do it, and he could do it part time. That's essentially what he did, because he was working as a doctor as well. And that appeal of being a YouTuber has always been something that we knew we could appeal to, and people, same way that kind of David Pro appealed to with the writing side of things, people wanting to be able to write online. And that's kind of how we came across it. It seemed like the natural fit for us, to be honest, in terms of Ali's own credibility, Ali's own experience in growing the YouTube channel and teaching others how to do what he's done, essentially. But we were always very open about the fact that, what we're teaching is there's no silver bullet to growing on YouTube, but what we're teaching is Ali's experience. And that's kind of what gave the whole thing credibility, and how we settled on that as the thing to really kind of niche down on and try to help others do the same. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
Cool. And what about the choice of doing a cohort versus just like a classic course? What was like? I know David Perel and it was a Thiago Forte you mentioned. They both do a cohort course based. What's the advantages of that versus just doing courses?
Interesting, yeah, because I know that certainly when we were kind of throwing about this idea 2 years ago, Ali was very much in favor of just doing a course, and like we did with Skillshare, putting it up and letting people buy it, and it's less faff than doing a cohort-based course, which is a lot of effort. But Thiago and David basically convinced him to do a cohort-based course. I think there's elements of the accountability side of things, the community side of things, and also just the value that people perceive they get out of having a live interaction with their coach, their teacher, or their mentor, whatever it should be, is far higher with a live course. And the other thing is the completion rates. People who are doing kind of self-paced courses, the completion rate on those, there's not a universal statistic on this, but it's much lower than cohort-based course, where there's constantly lessons coming around, you're interacting with other people, you're interacting with the students, and that accountability, that community aspect is just so important and can really carry people through to get a higher completion rate, which then results in better testimonials and better results further down the line, which we've seen with PTYA. And so that's kind of the reason why we went down the live cohort-based course. I think there's still kind of question marks over the future of cohort-based courses and whether they do have a long-term future. I don't know. I think there's different kind of eras of online education, and cohort-based courses certainly were very apt and suitable for that particular time during the pandemic, and I think that helped as well. I don't think I should say that they don't have any future now. I think they do post-pandemic, but during the pandemic, there was a prime opportunity for cohort-based courses because people were already doing stuff on Zoom. They were already looking for some sort of support, some sort of online community which they could, learn and grow in. And therefore, it was a kind of just a prime opportunity to start a cohort-based course at that time. Again, coming back to the point I made earlier about getting my own job, starting PTYA was very much, we didn't get lucky with the timing, but the timing was perfect. And I think that's the other reason why we wanted to do it as a cohort-based course, simply because the opportunity was there, and David and Thiago basically convinced Ali to do it as a cohort-based course, and we kind of haven't necessarily looked back. I think the final point on that is that I don't think this was necessarily a motivating factor for us, because I'm trying to think back now, but I don't think we were even talking about this at the time. But there is the opportunity to increase the prices for a 6-week live cohort course than a self-paced pre-recorded course by multiple factors. And so that is also, from a business perspective, certainly something that we probably subconsciously considered, but I don't exactly remember sort of openly talking about the fact that, if you did it self-paced, we'd charge this, and if we did it live, we'd charge this. That didn't really come into it too much. But again, it's something to think about if you are thinking of doing a live course, is that the prices that you can charge are higher than if you were doing a pre-recorded course, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. How much are you guys charging right now for the PTYA?
PTYA right now there's 3 different tiers, ranging from $1995 to $5995. So it's the essential at $1995, premium at $2995, and executive at $5995. And that top tier has sort of twice weekly calls with Ali, and very much more personal interaction with Ali himself. And the other tiers have different benefits and different discounts on our other courses and things like that. So we have added actually more and more value to each of those over time, and we often get accusations is the wrong word, but like people often say that there's almost too much value and we're overwhelming people with stuff, which we've always tried to do, but there's a balance between overwhelming them that they feel we've over delivered on value and overwhelming them to the extent that they can't actually cope at all. We've always tried to balance that out, but that's kind of the pricing point at the moment, and it seems to, certainly for the cohorts 2, 3, 4, and 5, it was slightly less than that. We increased it in cohort 6, but those cohorts have more or less sold out every time. It's not like people have been put off by that price point.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're paying for the accountability.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Yeah, it does seem like it's like between 5 and 10x multiple on what you could charge for a course, right? Like most YouTube courses are like 300 to 500, right? But it is interesting to see. I mean, accountability is really everything, right? And another thing that was, as I was doing some research for this, I saw a video where Ali was saying that you guys' refunds rates are like really incredible, right? As far as like being low, right? Where it's like I don't know, like what's your percentage like churn or like people that ask for a refund at the completion of the cohort?
It's varies between like 3 and 5%. It's really
which
low.
is incredible. Like for
really,
courses,
really
it's way closer to like 20-30%, right? So
yeah, and we're also like really. That's not. Just want to make it clear to the audience. So like that's not because we don't have a particularly liberal refund rate. We really do. Like if anyone emails us with a valid reason, or even if they just feel like the course wasn't for them, we're fairly liberal with giving refunds. We're even if it comes, they haven't. We say on the sales page, you need to do all the classes and all the homework to be able to apply for a refund. But if someone emails us halfway through and like this course isn't what I thought it would be, etc., we're like, okay, fine, have a refund. We're not like you need to do all 6 things before you can have a refund. So even with that approach, we're still only getting 3-4% refund rate. It's pretty good.
That's really interesting. All right, I want to go back to that week sprint when you guys burst PTYA. Because you kind of were like, oh yeah, we basically put together the curriculum like day 1, and then and next Monday we launched, And so, but I want to kind of go deeper on it. Like what are like step by step, like what were what was required to go from idea to launching? How crazy was that week?
Yeah, I mean, oddly, not as crazy as the week before, because the week before, little kind of side story, Ali had been toying back and forth with the idea of doing 100 videos in 100 days on his YouTube channel. And literally he had gone from the Monday he was doing it, the Tuesday he wasn't doing it, the Wednesday he was doing it again, and he was planning stuff on the Thursday, the Friday he wasn't doing it, Saturday he decided he would do it again, and Sunday he decided he didn't want to do it, which then resulted in us Monday meeting up to discuss, well, what were we going to do with the rest of the year? So that was a bit of a side story that led up to that. But in all honesty, so we sat down on the Monday afternoon, and I essentially got some post-it notes and was questioning Ali on what he thought should be in the course. And as a result of me basically just asking him questions to tease out the content that he thought should be in it, as well as myself contributing a bit. But obviously, Ali's got most of the knowledge, and I was just organizing things. Once we'd done that, I sort of wrote that up into a kind of long Notion page of what we thought should be on the course.
Basically, you came with a bunch of questions around like, hey, like if I wanted to start a YouTube channel, here are the questions I would have, because you didn't really have the knowledge. Is that kind of how it went? And then and you and Ali kind of went back and forth, like answering those and then organizing those into like some cohesive order with the post-its and stuff?
To an extent, yes. It was more like, okay, if we were teaching a course on how to get started with YouTube or how to level up your YouTube, what would we include? And that went right from, okay, so if you were just starting out, it would be, right, what is your niche? And then it would be, how are we going to generate ideas for your videos? And then around branding and script writing, and then kind of monetization, and then outsourcing and that kind of thing. And so that's very quickly we could find sort of 5 key or 5 or 6 key areas that we could concentrate on, which then ended up forming the themes for each of the weeks of the course. And that's kind of how it developed. And the whole I'm a big advocate of sticky notes because we used it then, and I've used it in subsequent times when I've been consulting for people's courses, and it's like game changing. It's so good. I'd recommend it to anyone. But basically, I was asking Ali questions on all of those different subjects, writing down not only what he was saying, but also kind of in my own mind, figuring out where it would fit into the course. And we were also recording this whole meeting as well, so that I had it recorded and I could go back and, if I couldn't write everything down that Ali had said. And afterwards, as I said, I went back home, wrote up everything that we'd done that was both on my sticky notes and the recording into just a long Notion document. And then over the next 2 or 3 days, we had 2 or 3 kind of 2 or 3 hour Zoom calls where we went through all that content, refined it a bit more, worked out a better structure, what we would cover in each lesson. Because in that first cohort, we had 3 lessons a week. It was a bit ridiculous. But we were working out what would be in each lesson. So there were 12 lessons overall because it was 3 lessons over 4 weeks, 3 lessons a week over 4 weeks. And we were working with someone else who was going to put together kind of an onboarding survey for us that was going to be based on the content that we had created. And so people would be asked questions about, where are they at with their YouTube journey? What do they know about niche monetization, outsourcing, that kind of thing. And they would rate themselves on all of those things before the course and then after the course. And then they'll get a visual representation of how they've improved over the 4 weeks. So we were working with that person to put together the survey and things like that, which also helped us in the sense of formalizing a bit more what the structure could be. And all of those things kind of molded it into what it then became, which by the end of the week was a fairly consistent structure of what we wanted it to be. And at the same time, we'd set up an account on Podia, which we used as kind of our payment processing for the first couple of courses. And Ali had done the sales page on there. And again, it was all using like no-code tools and things like that. Like Podia has our inbuilt website designer. So even though Ali could code and write a website himself, in that time frame, it's much easier just to use one that's provided by a course hosting platform like Podia. And then we had the Circle account. So Circle is a community hosting platform. Ali was very skeptical about setting something up like that. He didn't necessarily see the value of the community. Luckily, I convinced him that it was valuable because that's probably been one of the most important aspects of the success of PTYA is having that community and having people be held accountable and being able to interact with each other. And so that was also set up in that week. And again, it kind of comes back to the point we were talking about a while ago in terms of everyone mucking in to make sure that different things were done to move the whole thing forward. So Elizabeth was doing some of the admin on the back end to be able to get things set up and that kind of thing. And I was, as I said, setting up Circle. And we were also just sort of mucking in to make sure that by the end of that week, it was more or less ready. And then we didn't really have a big launch. It was more just Ali announced it on Twitter, I think. And it kind of went from there, even though at that time, Ali only had about 40,000 followers on Twitter. It wasn't even launched on YouTube per se. It was just kind of Twitter. I think Ali may have mentioned it on YouTube, but we didn't have a massive campaign.
If you like this short clip, make sure to check out the full interview right here and subscribe to the channel for more behind the scenes interviews with the people working for your favorite entrepreneurs and creators.